way to Dallas to make their SEC media debut yesterday with new head coach Kalen DeBoer.
Be in the SEC championship game, but they need to understand, that's counter rat poison. I never wanted to get picked first. I always wanted to be the underdog. So this was counter rat poison. I hope they understand that.
Counter rat poison. I like how he set that up. All right, so Bama quarterback Jalen Milroe also commented saying, "We still love Coach Saban. It's all good." We've got Paul Finebaum here and Heather Dinich here live from Dallas from SEC Media Days. Paul, I'm going to start with you. What's your reaction to everything that was said?
Well, welcome to the media world, Coach Saban. He has been treated very well by the media and by everybody else throughout his career. For the obvious reason, he's the best coach of all time. But what he said the other day surprised some of us, because usually when coaches go to work for television networks, they don't understand it. He does. He spoke the truth, and he got some blowback. But just wait for that Saturday morning when he's sitting in Tuscaloosa for, let's say, the Georgia-Alabama game. I'm willing to bet he picks Alabama, because I don't think Nick Saban, I know this is going to sound like a hot take here, I don't think he has enough nerve in Tuscaloosa with his homies with him to go against his former team, which is still in many ways his team. So that will be the crucible for Coach Saban. Can he pick against Alabama? I say he cannot.
Well, I think that he already did pick against Bama, so it wouldn't surprise me if he did it again. And I heard him say Texas and Georgia, and he was right. So I thought he was doing a good job. And I can tell you guys that we were in the room upstairs, the ESPN.com interview room, when Tyler Booker, that offensive lineman you heard, and Jalen Milroe came through, and we asked them about that. It was good-natured. They were laughing when they were talking about his pick. And the other thing, too, is that I think the big takeaway from this is that Saban is good on TV. He's good at his job, and he is prompting everyone to react to what he's saying, and he probably is. It's going to have the effect that he wants, reverse rat poison, unless that was just sort of like a backtracking. That's not what I really meant, but that's what I meant.
What I thought was the most remarkable thing yesterday is that Wednesday has always been Alabama's day, Christine. It was not. It was Kalen DeBoer here. I swear. I want proof of life that Kalen DeBoer, the new Alabama coach, was at SEC Media Days, because up and down Radio Row, up and down the television row, the conversation was what we're doing right here. It was about Nick Saban.
I think one of the things I like about Nick Saban and what he's doing in the media right now currently is that I learned this, and my mentor told me this when I got into the business. If you want people to listen to you consistently and follow your media career, you can't be afraid to tell the truth. You can't be a homer when it comes to certain teams that you're a part of. And I think Nick Saban saying that he's not picking Alabama to be one of those top two teams in the SEC, that's exactly what he's doing. Because, Paul, I know you, Heather, and myself, we feel the same way. And if we're being honest about it, when I look at the SEC right now, I view Georgia as being 1, Texas 2. I throw Ole Miss at 3. And I think when you start to get to 4 and 5, is Alabama there? Is it going to be Alabama? Is it Missouri? Is it another team? So Nick Saban being honest, joining the ESPN and being involved in the media, I think it's going to allow people to want to tune in and listen to him more. So that's one of the biggest things I took from it. And also his players, listen to him while he was there. Don't listen to a man that's sitting in their basement in their mom's house. You listen to your coach and stay focused on the task at hand. So I think that's another thing that his players, or former players, I would say, listen to his messaging while he was there.
Paul, I want to ask you this. You were just talking about how Kalen DeBoer, you didn't really feel like he was there, but obviously the players are having a little bit of that reverse rat poison, as Saban said. Do you like Bama's mindset heading into the season?
I do, and whether I can joke about his personality or whether he was here or not, and of course he was. And by the way, Kalen DeBoer came here early yesterday. He did something I've never heard before. He took a commercial flight. Coach is taking a commercial flight on Tuesday night so he could go up and down the media row. He's the most. Nick Saban was not accessible. He did very few interviews. Kalen DeBoer did every interview request because I think he wants to get out in front of people. He knows it helps in recruiting. So ultimately, he has had a masterful 6 months. He is recruiting at an elite level. He lost a couple of players in the transition. That's really on Nick Saban. It's not on Kalen DeBoer, because don't forget, Nick Saban didn't allow allow anybody to know he was leaving. He walked in that meeting room on January 10th, and he's told people he had 2 speeches. He wasn't even sure what he was doing himself, and Kalen DeBoer paid for that initially, but he's made up for it. But all the great conversation we're having about Kalen DeBoer is one thing. But the real crucible will be when he loses a game he's not supposed to, because Saban went through it, but he had a national championship in his back pocket. Kalen DeBoer doesn't have that luxury, and Alabama fans can be extraordinarily difficult.
Well, the reason is because they're a bit spoiled, because all they know is winning, right? And when you look at the SEC championships over the past decade, Nick Saban or Kirby Smart have won 9 of the past 10, the lone exception being that amazing 2019 LSU team. So that's where the expectation is. But that being said, to answer your question, the mindset is good because I think it starts with the relationship between DeBoer and Jalen Milroe. I'm telling you guys, he walked into our interview room yesterday, dressed in black, looking sharp, cowboy hat on. He just lit that place up with his energy. Where we're sitting right now, he ran behind us. He went and found Saban on set here. He is a charismatic guy, looking like a linebacker, by the way, right now. And if he can prevent those 44 sacks along with his offensive line, and he's talking about how DeBoer has just poured confidence into him and really believes in him. And I think that mindset will translate to the rest of the team. But as I say that, Paul, looking at their schedule, they could be a 3 or a 4 loss.
We'll go from 4 to 12 teams for the next 2 seasons, with the 5 highest ranked conference champs joining the next 7 highest ranked teams in the field. Now, some people aren't too fond of the changes in Clemson head coach Dabo Swinney thinks they will seriously affect how teams approach the end of the season. Let's take a listen.
You'll probably see some guys, if you're 4-4 and probably out of the playoffs, probably see some guys head off to Arizona and train. You'll probably see some situations like you see in the NFL. The Ravens are in the playoffs. They got it locked up, right? They got the bye. They got one more game that really means nothing. You play Lamar in that game. Maybe you're 11-0 and you got that rivalry game. But, you play your biggest foe next week in the conference championship, and if you win that game, you're going to get a bye. Those are things that are probably decisions you'll see play out all throughout college football.
All right, we got Paul Finebaum and Heather Dinich joining us again from SEC Media Days. Paul, I'm going to start with you. Do you think that CFP expansion makes this season less exciting?
No, not at all. And I found it ironic, Christina, that Dabo Swinney's upset about the new system. I mean, he hasn't been to the playoffs in 4 years, and he's not going this year. So, Dabo, just get over it. I mean, you're going to be watching it from home. Enjoy it. This is the best thing that's happened to college football in a long time, and leave it to Dabo Swinney, the curmudgeon, even though he's still in his 50s, telling all the kids to get off his lawn. I mean, I don't know what's wrong with this man. He's won a couple of championships. He's had great teams. His dynasty and his era is over, so enjoy the $10 million a year and be quiet.
Woo! All right. There are absolutely going to be unintended consequences from this. And when Nick Saban talks about having the 12 best teams instead of 5 conference champions, one of the reasons is because of a concern of upsets in conference championship games. You could have a 3 or a 4 loss team. What if Iowa, which can't score a touchdown, somehow has an upset in the Big Ten? Then are they one of the best teams in college football? So there are concerns like that out there about this new system. I don't think it devalues the regular season at all, because you do get a first round bye if you're one of the 4 highest ranked conference champions. That's a big deal, because if you lose in the SEC championship game, you're still a really good football team. But if you lose, you have to win 4 straight games to win the national title. I don't care who you are. That's really, really hard. So there are some questions from coaches about how to approach that. I mean, as we sit here, how many coaches out there are changing their strength and conditioning programs, their nutrition, in order to survive a season that now goes until January 20th? But I'm telling you right now that the College Football Playoff Selection Committee is still going to look at your resume, who you beat, how many CFP top 25 teams, if you're not a conference champion, to get one of those spots. So you better play up, you better man up, and you better win those games if you want to be in the CFP.
I don't think there's anything that Dabo Swinney likes within the last 2 or 3 years If you want to go to a party, don't invite Dabo, party pooper. If you want to go on a guy's trip and have a nice vacation and have fun, don't invite Dabo. He's going to spoil the fun. It's just unbelievable at this point. We're talking about a guy who still hasn't gotten intertwined with the now, and using transfers and allowed Florida State last season to catch up with him and be the best team in the ACC, because you see people going out the program, but he's not bringing people in the program from a transfer portal. But I would say this, as far as competition and the 12-team playoff altering things in college football from a competition standpoint, hell no. Hell no. And for Dabo that thinks when you get to the end of a year, let's just take the Big Ten for Zach, and the biggest rival there, Ohio State and Michigan. Let's just say one of those teams have 2 losses, and one team is already sold up to probably be in the college football playoffs. You think they're going to sit their guys when they have a chance to make sure that their biggest rival don't even make it, and that coach can get extra money for beating their biggest rival as well? Don't see it happening. I love the simple fact that we have a 12-team playoff, because now teams that didn't have an opportunity, who probably had 2 losses, has an opportunity now to be able to get into the college football playoffs with the common goal at hand, winning a national championship, with the opportunity still being there to hoist up that championship trophy.
You mentioned the fact that Dabo still hasn't figured out the transfer portal thing. I feel like if DJ Uiagalelei plays at Florida State and carves up Clemson, I feel like maybe Dabo will start rethinking things just a little bit.